Let's move on to the next question. Okay, so this is a change in topic here. What leads to breakdowns in relationships? All right, so because of the lack of specificity in that question, I don't know what type of relationships you mean. So I'm just going to talk about relationships in general. What leads to breakdowns in relationships? Misunderstandings. Miscommunication leads to breakdowns in relationships. Yeah? This happens a lot in relationships. Poor communication is quite possibly the most significant challenge that people face in their relationships. Doesn't matter what relationship, with your friend, with a colleague, with your child, with your parents, and so on and so forth. That causes a breakdown in relationships because lack of communication creates space for the ego, if you will. Because if you miscommunicated something with someone and they did something that doesn't fall within your rules of the way you know one another, that can cause friction, tension, and then your ego gets involved. You said that because you think I'm like this. That's untrue. And then you start to concoct these visualizations of how your friend or partner let you down. And this is your ego. This leads to compulsive and obsessive thinking and feeling that doesn't end. That affects you at a cellular level. That affects the hormones that you produce, and producing cortisol from the adrenals and so on and so forth. That furthers that negativity, that drainage of energy. And that leads to a breakdown in relationships. So poor communication allows the ego to surreptitiously infiltrate into the mind and to cause one to feel stressed and to make worse choices. If your ego has been getting in the way of your relationship with someone, that's going to cause you to make worse choices. Because when the stress response is turned on, blood doesn't flow as easily to the prefrontal cortex, the seat of your conscious awareness, your best self, the leader within your brain, if you will. And therefore, you're not going to make the best possible choices because you are acting out of stress. You are acting out of the limbic system. You are acting emotionally. And therefore, you are not making logical choices. You are not putting things into perspective. You're making it seem larger than life and more dramatic. And that worsens the whole cycle. And now you're in a downward spiral in your relationship. So misunderstanding, miscommunication leads to egoic energy within, which leads to overthinking and making worse choices as it relates to that relationship. What leads to breakdowns in relationship, also as it relates to communication, not talking about things whilst they're small. So if you're out with a friend and they don't give you much attention, maybe someone came to talk to them and your friend started chatting to someone else randomly for 2 hours, and you're sitting there like that. But you don't raise it, for example, thereafter. You don't say, yeah, the person you were with, that was quite cool. But it's such a shame because I wanted to talk to you properly and connect with you, and I feel like we didn't really get to do that this time. So yeah, maybe we should meet up again and have a proper conversation or something like that. You're raising the issue before it escalates and before it really annoys you. Because otherwise what will happen is, if you keep that in, if you suppress that feeling, and then it happens again or in another way, now or something different, maybe your friend, the next time you meet, if you didn't mention it again, and the next time you meet, they are, say you paid for something and then you expected them to pay for something the next time and they didn't, and you don't say something again. Now you're accumulating this negative energy as it relates to your friend. And that's going to build up within you, and you're going to think about it egoically next day and the next day and this and that. And it's going to negatively affect how you communicate with your friend thereafter. And now you've built up a lot of resentment. And sometimes this happens until you have an argument. And normally people release that energy in the most inappropriate way at the most inappropriate time. For example, say you had some legitimate reasons for being disappointed in your friends, the reasons I just gave. And then they said, I don't know, and then you were out for dinner and your friend just helped themselves to your food. They're like, oh, let me try that. And they took something. Not a big deal, right? Well, it shouldn't be. They tried something on your plate. Like, you know what? I've had enough of you. You do this, you do that. You're not inconsiderate. You just take things. All you do with our relationship is you take. Your friend's like halfway eating just a spoonful of what you're like, oh, jeez, what's the matter with you? You, because you didn't speak about the other things that annoyed you in the past, you've built up this evil beast within, and you've unleashed it at the worst time. And now your friend's going to be defensive. Dude, what's wrong with you? I love how I've turned this into a bit of a scene. And that's how, these are the sort of things that cause breakdown in relationships. Lack of communication. Now that person's going to go back and say, this person is a bit crazy. Like, they must be going through a difficult time. It's got nothing to do with me. And because you didn't say, yeah, but it's because you've been annoying me that time and that time, that's further miscommunication in the relationship. They don't understand you and you don't understand them. And that's really, really problematic.